Hi, I'm Melissa Cooper. Thank you for watching my lesson video. I would like to start this video by just giving you a little background information before I launch into the plan, the video itself, and my reflection. For this project, I've been working really closely with my colleague, the grade 10 MYP INS teacher, and we had worked together to create a research project that was very open-ended. Students can make any product they wish in order to share their knowledge. We looked at a number of standards, but before you look at this lesson, what you need to know is that we had done two lessons at least previous on students evaluating resources. One of them was using the library website, which I will show you in a moment in the video very quickly, um, helping the students learn how to analyze a resource. What were the core pieces of it? And we used something called OPVL, which is what is the origin of the piece? What is the purpose that it was written? Does it have value for the work you're doing? And any limitations that it has. So the students had already had two lessons, one in INS and the other one in personal project, because I am also the personal project coordinator. So it's kind of fun because we can kind of team up and make sure that we cover ATL or their skills in two places. I feel this video is going to be a good example of my responsive teaching because this lesson actually came from the students. I was hanging out in the library and some of the kids were coming up and asking exactly how do they include their OPVL? How do they actually include an analysis into their written work or into their speech or whatever form that they're writing? So this lesson is responsive teaching and it's all coming from them. Anyway, let me get on with the plan part here. So my desired learning outcome was that students will apply their critical evaluation of the resource to their writing. My MYP criteria came from individuals in society, which is humanities, is criteria D, as we call it, thinking critically. And students have to be able to analyze and evaluate all sorts of resources. So the students had everything from video transcripts, videos, speeches, books, of course, and websites. And not to forget, library standards. I use mostly the ALA, although I have a set that I also developed myself from a former school that I still rely on that has an integration between the ALA library standards as well as the IB ones. So the purpose for the students today was to evaluate information as listed there, and the respect to copyright and intellectual property is all about citations, which you'll see in the conference I have with the students is, as always, the students have lots of questions about citations. It's good they're asking questions, and it's up to myself as a librarian to show them how to find their answers. Okay, so in a moment, you're going to take a look at the video itself of me giving the lesson overview and then the conference. And I'll be back in a moment in this form to do the reflection. Okay, grade 10s, we are going to have a little chat today about how you incorporate into your essay or your project or your slideshow your analysis of your sources. So you've already been good people, I know, and have evaluated your sources using the criteria on the library website. And I know for personal project, we've already talked about how to evaluate using OPVL. Raise your hand if you have used this template already for personal project. You've already given it a go, right? So what is the purpose of the evaluation? Why do you even need to evaluate a website? Why do you need to evaluate any of your sources? Never mind a website. It could be a book, anything. What's the purpose of it? Kenta?
You need to know how reliable it is.
So you need to know if it's reliable. Is there any other reason why you need to evaluate a website? So reliability is one. What's another reason? Michelle?
You need to know if it answers your research question.
Yes. So you need to know that if the purpose is correct, it's a good fit. Anything else? Limitations. Remember, the OPVL is right here. So you need to know if the source has limitations. For your reference, in the Google Classroom, I have both of those examples here in that evaluation of sources. So, what does this look like in your work? Your goal today, as you are revising your work is due on Monday. Ms. Cheney and I would like you to ensure that you've included in a paragraph a way to indicate that you've actually evaluated your sources. So, identify your key resource. Who knows what resource is a key resource for them? Have you identified your key sources? It's the one that you repeat all the time. So if you take a look at your work, what is something that you've repeated over and over and over again as an in-text citation? That's a good one to include in your evaluation. So if you're going to evaluate on content, you can state it like, here's the container. In an Encyclopedia Britannica article about the iconic Rosie the Riveter, it is stated that the U.S. Office of War produced a variety of materials. So stating, as Ms. Cheney said with the tertiary source, that's no opinion, that's just general information, okay? I didn't say that it explained it in detail or anything else. So just that statement right there tells you a bit about the content. Or, if you want to talk about a limitation, I used the other example for Rosie, and I used an article from the Department of Defense. As you can see from my in-text citation, there's the title, the author. But Rosie was more than just an image. She was based on a real person according to an article published by the U.S. Department of Defense. Although this article loudly and proudly touts the positive impact of this propaganda, the fact is, it is still propaganda, and its purpose is to influence. Okay, so what words in here kind of show the limitation part? What part in here show that the article from the Department of Defense might be biased? Yes, so the article, the loudly and proudly, it's very colloquial, but loudly and proudly kind of show that focus on propaganda. It's very American. Okay, so questions. Do you understand what you're going to do in your work today? Thumbs up. Thank you, Nico. Okay, so if you have any questions, Ms. Cheney and I are happy to help you work it into your work, how to work it into your work somewhere so you can show that you are all those good critical people. Okay, get on with it. Thank you.
So
Okay,
I have a question.
so you have a question?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I have a question about in-text citation.
Okay.
So sometimes I mention like according to somebody,
Yes.
and I made references.
To this direct quote?
Yes, and then after that I use the same source to add more information. Do I have to put in-text citation as well?
So if it's part of the direct quote, you still quote it as a direct quote. And see here it says quoted in.
Yep.
So you do McEwen as quoted in this website.
Okay.
Okay?
And then
Did that answer your question?
kind of.
Okay.
Since McEwen comes up like 3 times, like multiple times, do I still have to include it in every single sentence? Because at the beginning, I think I've mentioned like according to McEwen.
Okay, and what did Ms. Cheney say? So look how it is written here. McEwen. So each time you pull the fact, you do need to give reference to it.
Okay, so even if they're continuous information, I still have to put McEwen.
McEwen. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't use that.
Okay, thank you for watching the video. So here's the reflection portion of it. I found that as I looked at the lesson afterward, it's always interesting looking at yourself on film, isn't it? Apart aside from the usual discomforts of hearing your own voice and seeing your appearance, you definitely can see that I feel pressure to not take too much of the time. I spoke really quickly. That also could be nervous about being filmed. But I felt like I didn't scaffold the lesson as well as I probably could have. I should have probably taken a little more time and had the kids good old Reggie Routman, the I do, we do, you do, of we should have worked together probably to develop one of those examples to have get them thinking and working their way through it. Or on the flip side, I could have asked the students to do some sort of maybe a jam board where the kids could compose one together and we could put them up so that way they could see and share their ideas. They had done quite a bit of work, and I knew it was their last lesson before they had to hand it in. Not that that's really a great excuse, but I think that was part of my thinking. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this and that it highlights who I am as a teacher, the fact that I have a good relationship with my students, and I really enjoy working collaboratively with my colleagues. Thank you.